Hi guys, and welcome back to Dice Down Gaming. In today's video, we're going to go through the Steamroller 2026 pack together. We're going to look at the new scenarios, if there's any different ways of setting them up, or if there's any different process to starting the game or not. Let's jump right in, and first of all, I want to make a shout out to how cool the art is on the front of it. Got some new Kith Guard art on the Steamroller pack. Absolutely love that. It's some beautiful art, and it makes all the difference, brings the document to life. So it's a really good start. Let's jump into how we begin a game and how we set up a game. First of all, you're going to choose a scenario, and in the Steamroller, it'll probably be predetermined for you. You then choose a list simultaneously. So the first thing you do is you pick your list, you reveal it at the same time. Then you roll a d6 to pick attacker or defender. The winner of that roll will choose to be either the attacker or defender. The defender determines the table side they're on. And then you will sort out your scenario as per scenario elements. You'll put your objectives and your flags down as per the scenario. If the scenario includes it, you now choose the scenario terrain. If one or more player has the defences, you'll now place your defences, and if you both have it, it's attacker and defender. The attacker then starts the clock and deploys first. So typically, the first player, the attacker is often referred to as the first player. The first player will deploy first and put their defences down first. The second player, the defender, will pick the table side. They'll deploy second, and they'll also take. They'll be second in the order of turns. So the attacker will take their turn first, and then the defender will pick their turn, and there'll be 7 rounds of attacker and defender taking their turns. Once you've done your deployment, you'll do your advanced deployment. So the attacker will do the advanced deployment, and defender will do their advanced deployment. This is all 1 clock. Once you've done AD, the attacker starts their first turn, and we begin the game. So it's the same process as we used to go through, just no spell rack part of starting the game now. Let's take a look at the scenario elements that we're going to battle over. First of all, is objectives and if they've changed. So a 50mm objective is secured by a leader, a cohort, or a battle engine within 3, and no one contests it. So that's the same. A 40mm is secured by a leader or units within 3 of it, and no opponent contests it, so that's the same. And an objective is contested if any of your opponent's models are within 3 of the objective. Leader models, inert warjacks, wild war beasts, and autonomous monstrosities, and disabled models cannot contest, and that's the same as before. So 50mm, 40mm, and contesting, that stayed the same for this packet. Next up, we have flags and scenario terrain. Now, I've pre-read this. The only difference here being is that it's any 2 models, but a solo will count as 2 models. So solos now solo score the flag terrain, which is really nice. It gives solos a bit of a boost, because previously in 2024 there were some things that they could only score, and in 2025 that got taken away. So now there's a nice middle ground that you can still score flags with 2 models, or a solo can score it by themselves. So I think when we go through this pack, if there's some really wide scenarios that have scenario terrain on either side, having a strong solo to solo score one of those flags will be really important. We'll have to wait and see. Next, we've got catches, and now catches operate in the same way. You have to forfeit your combat action to remove a catch, and you can't remove a catch when it's contested. And it's the same thing that leaders, inert warjacks, wild war beasts, autonomous monstrosities, and disabled models can't contest catches as well. Kill box starts on the attacker player's second turn, so first player second turn. If a player ends their turn within a friendly leader model completely within 12 of the table edge, you give up 2 VPs. That is quite forgiving. It's not just within 12, it's wholly within 12. So you've got your whole base to play with. You've just got a little tip above 12, and then you won't give away kill box. So largely, the way we set the game up is quite similar. We skip the spell rack slot, and then in terms of how we're scoring things, 40 and 50mm stay the same. How we contest things stay the same. Just that solos will now score a scenario train by themselves. Simple change, but I think really good. This just describes the different type of victories you can have, i.e. assassination victory. If you kill your opponent's leader, you'll win the game. You do score 1 last turn of victory points, which is worth noting. So if you kill your opponent's leader, You score it as you know. So you kill the leader. You do the last damage roll. Game stops. You score it then, and that's the score for the game. There's no additional points for you didn't get 10 VPs or anything. So 10 army points for killing an opponent's leader. You just get what you killed. Scenario victory is the same, and it's described on each scenario, but each scenario has the same scenario victory conditions. So let's get into the first scenario. And Trench Warfare Estate. This has everything on it, and the scenario victory stays the same for all the scenarios. So a player has 3 or more VPs. A player who has 3 or more VP than their opponent after scoring on their opponent's turn immediately wins. What this means is that after your opponent's turn, you have to be 3 scenario points ahead. So your opponent always has a turn to try and score scenario before you win on scenario, which I think is a really good way of handling it. You score on both turns, and it makes it really dynamic. And I like the way scenarios work currently in War Machine. In Trench Warfare, there's a special rule called Earthworks. When within 3 inches of a player's own 40 or 50mm objectives, medium and small base warrior models gain cover and resistance blast. So if I am the attacker in this situation, which is red, and so these 2 objectives here, they would give my small and medium base models cover and resistance blast. This can be a big scenario to roll if your opponent's got a heavy gun line, and you've already got a solid anti-gun line list. But having cover on demand to your resistance blast is massive. So like for example, my Boom Howler list sort of tech to planes of guns, rough seas, force barrier. Having lots of cover on demand will be fantastic for that list. It's a very active scenario. There is 2 50mm, 2 40mm, 2 flags, and 2 catches. Now with this one, the objectives are worth 1 VP, and your opponent's scenario train is worth 2 VP. However, your own scenario train is not worth any. So if I am the attacker here, my opponent puts their flag sort of around this area, I can go score that for 2 VPs. I don't score my own flag, but I might need to defend it if someone's got an ambushing unit or pushes hard on that flank to try and secure that flag. So there's a total of 4 plus a cash would be 6, and the opponent's flag. There could be 8 points a turn available in Trench Warfare. I think it's a great scenario. It's very live. There's lots to score. You're using most of the map. So I'm really glad to see that Trench Warfare has stayed in Steamroller 2026. Next up, we've got 2 fronts. Now this has stayed as well. And let's see if it's changed or not. So the scenario victory stays the same. Scenario elements, there's 2 50mm, 2 40mm, and 1 flag. So the setup has stayed the same. You'll notice now that previously these 2 objectives were directly opposite each other, and they've been set off a little bit so they aren't in line. I believe this is to make it harder for a unit to score both of these objectives, and similarly a cohort to score both of these. Now I've not put models on the table to see if it's still possible or not, but it looks a lot harder to be able to score both these 40s with 1 unit, and similar both the 50s. In this one, the defender, so the person playing second, gets to place the flag, and there's only 1 flag. Now previously on 2 fronts, if you scored both either 40mm or 50mm, you would get a 2-point bonus at the end of the turn because you scored both of 1 set of objectives. This sometimes led to, on turn 2, you could push really hard. Say I'm the defender and I push really hard on my turn 2, and I score 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives, and say maybe I can test this one. So I've got a list that's like a heavy in units but light on cohort. I'm able to double push, score both the 40s, score my flag, score the 50, and contest their 50. That previously resulted in 6 points. You'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 bonus points for scoring both of one side, and then it could be incredibly hard for your opponent to score enough to claw back that 3-point deficit. So sometimes 2 fronts ended on turn 2 by double scoring as a second player. Now they've slightly adjusted the scenario scoring on 2 fronts. Now if a player has scored both 40mm, you would get 1 bonus VP, and if you score both 50mm, you would get 1 bonus VP. Now previously on 2 fronts, you could only score the bonus for securing a pair of objectives once. So if I scored both 40s and both 50s, I wouldn't get 4 bonus VP, I just get 2 bonus VP because I scored a set of objectives. That's no longer the case. You can now score 40-40 and a bonus point, and 50-50 and a bonus point, but if you just score, say, 40-40, so in the previous turn, if I scored 1, 2, 3, 4, I would get 4 points, and then a bonus point for securing both of these, so 5. So they're not quite as big a swing if you do have a really strong turn 2 and push really hard and try and, jam out your opponent for the scenario. And also it's going to be a lot harder to use one unit to score both of these, and harder to use one Warjack or Cohort to score both of these. So I think it's a good scenario, and it's in a better place now that there'll probably be less turn 2, say turn 3 victories where someone scores 6 in one turn and it's incredibly hard for the opponent to score back. Glad to see it stay, and I quite like the changes to it. Next up, another returning scenario, Wolves at our heels. This has a special rule, the Wolves advance. Starting on the attacker's third turn, so first player's third turn, extend the kill box by 2 inches at the beginning of each of the attacker's turns. So on turn 3, you're going to push that kill box 2 inches up, so it's going to be 14 rather than 12. And then you're going to go turn 4, you're going to go 16, 18. At the end of it, it's going to end up 20 inches on turn 7 if you make it that far. Now, Wolves at our heels has 2 50mm objectives, 2 40mm objectives, and 2 flags. And there is a rule that at the end of each scoring turn, after points have been scored, if a player has secured their own 40mm objective, they can add a token to their objective if they do. Their opponent may move that objective 3 inches towards the 50mm objective of the same colour. So now we are moving this 40 to that 50, and the attacker is moving that 40 to that 50. If both objectives gain their third token in the same turn, no points are scored in this manner. So if for sequential turns, both players add a token, you no longer get the bonus points for that objective. And the bonus points are here. A player adds the third token to the objective and their opponent did not, you get free VP. So by pushing the objective closer to the middle, you're making it easier for your opponent to contest. And you can't add a token if it's contested. So you're going to add these tokens and push it closer to the middle. If you want to, if their opponent, so okay, let's quickly rejig. I've read it not correctly. At the end of each scoring turn, after points have been scored, if a player has secured their own 40mm objective, they can add a token to their objective. If you do, your opponent moves it. Okay. So, for example, if I'm the attacker and I score this 40mm and I add a token to it, my opponent, if they want to, can then move that 40mm closer to my 50mm, making it easier for my opponent to contest and harder for me to add tokens to it. Okay, that's really cool. Once a token, an objective gets 3 tokens, you get free VP. But if you both get 3 tokens at the same time, you now won't score the VP. So previously this was pushing this 40mm across the middle of the board. And I really like this change to add in tokens. I think it's going to be really fun. And it's going to be a really live scenario. You can score the flags and all the objectives. So there's 6 points on offer, plus potentially 3 points extra once you get to once you get that third token. Now, as you only get that third token once, that bonus 3 VPs, I think it will be a very big swing on the person that gets that token first and gets those 3 tokens first. Will be in a really strong position on Wolves at our heels. Really excited to play it, and I also like the kill box moving up. It feels it's a pressure cooker as you get longer in the game. Really cool. Next up, we've got Pressure Point. Now, Pressure Point is a new scenario in the packet. Scenario 4, same scenario, victory condition. Now, this has, interestingly, 4 flags in total. Now, you can see by the colour of them, the second player, the defender, is going to be able to place all 4 of these flags. And the attacker won't place any flags. In terms of scoring, each scenario train is going to be worth 1 VP. And this objective in the middle is worth 2 VP. Now, this will be really interesting. It might be a very terrain-dependent scenario on how fair and balanced this is. If you get poor terrain, say this flag has to go here, this flag has to go here, the first player has sort of 2, 3 objectives and then can fight over this middle one and here. If the terrain goes up here and here, and the opponent, the second player's got basically 4 objectives to themselves, this will be really interesting how this plays out. And I think terrain and how good this scenario feels will heavily depend on terrain. There's no real extra rules to this. It's just fight over these flags and objectives. I think we're going to be really dependent on how the terrain looks on the boards. Next up, we've got higher stakes, and there's a lot to read through this one. This is scenario 5. Scenario victory stays the same. There is 150 milliliter and 240 millimeters. Additionally, place 5 countdown tokens on each piece of objective terrain. So there's 240s, 150, and 240 millimeters. And these scenario terrain, I believe. Yes, each objective terrain. Oh, sorry, piece objective terrain. Sorry. So each of these objectives. Oh no, I'm getting myself confused. It is the terrain. So the terrain that gets picked is going to have 5 countdown tokens. I'm reading this live with you guys. I've not read this before, so apologies. I'm not. Maybe I should read things before I record. There's now a rule called Light the Fuse. Starting on the defender's second player's second turn, at the end of each player's turn before scoring, if a player has secured the 50mm objective, that player must choose that objective or either objective terrain and remove 1 D3 countdown tokens. The player cannot choose an objective or objective terrain that has 0 countdown tokens. Okay, so if you scored a 50mm objective, you will now pick one of the objective terrain. And if a player has scored, your player must choose that objective, and you can pick the 50mm objective and remove 1 D3 countdown tokens. Okay, if remove 1 countdown token from and if no one has the 50mm objective, you randomize where you remove the tokens from. If an objective reaches 0 countdown tokens, models within the objective terrain or free of the objective or impassable objective terrain suffer a power 14 magical blast damage roll. Then you continue to scoring. Starting on the defender's second turn, at the end of each player's turn, you get VP as follows. You get 1 VP for each 40mm objective, 40mm objective, 1 VP for each 50mm objective, plus 1 VP if it has 0 countdown tokens, and you get 1 VP plus 1 VP for each flag scored, and 1 extra VP if it has 0 countdown tokens. Okay, I think if you're watching this and you've watched me read this live, this one's quite complex. A power 14 blast roll on scenario terrain will kill just some units. If I put a Marauder crew or pig boarding party scoring that unit, scoring that flag, and it explodes, they pretty much all die. That's very interesting. Maybe that could have been 50mm. So not all your units that want to say if you're scoring with a unit, it dies. Maybe there's 40 here, so you score the 40s with units and you try and score these flags with cohorts to avoid them blowing up. I think interesting. I'm not sure how popular this one will be amongst the War Machine community, who are typically not a massive fan of randomness in the game. Incursion, old school scenario that had a random objective disappear, was never looked upon too fondly, and it'll be interesting to see how high stakes is received. I think I need to play this a few times to really get my head around it. Very interesting. Next up, we've got scenario 6, and this one is called Fault Line. The same scenario victory condition. You have 4 40mm and 2 50mm in a diagonal sort of line across the board. This one looks very spread out. If it's 8 inches across the board and we're on a 48 board, that's 40 inches. That's also 40 inches. There's a very big gap between those. So this is a very spread out scenario. They're not flags, so they can't be solo scored by a solo, which could have been nice. Okay, interesting. You have to play some units wide and your cohort in the middle. You get 1 VP for each objective scored. You get 1 VP if they have scored 2 of their own objectives. Okay, so if you score, let's say I'm an attacker and I score these 2, I get a bonus VP. You get a bonus VP if a player has scored all 3 of their own objectives. Okay, so if you score 1, you get 1. You score 2, you get 1, 2, and an extra bonus. If you score 3, you get 1, 2, 3, and a bonus, and a bonus. I think so. I think if you score 2, if you score 3, you'll get that. A player scored 2 of their own objectives, you get a bonus. A player scored all 3 of their own objectives, you get another bonus. So you could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus some from your opponent. That's a very big. It could be a very big turn. If you're going second and you have the opportunity to score first, the potential you score all of your own, and you can kill some of your opponents and contest, and they can't remove you, and you maybe win on turn 2. Very interesting. It's a very high scoring one, and very spread out. You have to be able to play really across the whole board here. I think that's how that works. If I'm wrong in the comments, let me know. But my understanding would be 1 VP for each of these objectives, 1 VP because you've scored 2, 1 VP because you've scored 3, which is 5. And if you can push onto your opponent and score, contest these, or maybe score 1 of these, it could be 6 or something in turn 2. Really interesting. Gonna have to play that. Really high scoring. And my heart sinks. Scenario 7, Payload. Have they changed Payload? Let's hope so. Payload has a rule made to haul. After moving their 50-meter objective at the end of their turn, that player may move 1 friendly cohort model directly 5 inches directly towards their 50-meter objective. Interestingly, it hasn't got a range attached to it. So the 50mm here, you could charge a model out here, move your 50mm, and then move that model back towards it, which is really interesting. You could use it to get in a threat extension. If you have a cohort, say here, you move it here, and then you move the cohort up with it. Your opponent might not expect that extra threat on that cohort. So that's interesting. There's 2 50mm, there's 2 40mm, and there's 2 flags. You get 1 VP for each objective. So each of these 4 objectives is 1 VP. You get 1 VP for each flag scored. Now this is really a great change, that previously in Payload you couldn't score the flags. They were purely there to push the payload into. So this is a really, really great change. Now there's 6 points on offer every turn, not just 4. So I'm really glad to see that. And if a player 50-meter objective ends its movement within the area of their opponent's terrain, or if being within the scenario terrain is impossible, within 3 inches of the piece of terrain itself, you can remove the 50mm and you can score 3 VPs. So that element stays the same, but now the flags are able to score, which is really good. And at the end of each scoring turn after points have been scored, a player securing a 50mm objective may move that objective up to 3 inches towards their opponent's scenario terrain, +1 for each other 40 or 50mm objective scored by that player. So if I, for example, I'm the attacker and I currently ended my turn, I control these 3, I would be able to move this 5 inches, I believe, a player scoring and +1 for each other. So if I control 3 objectives, I can move this 5 inches rather than 3 inches. Once I get that within 3 inches of a bit of terrain I can't go into, or if I can go into it, once it enters it, I can remove it and I can score 5 VPs. So I'm really glad to see that they've added the flags being able to score. That's really, really great. That does make a big change. Typically, it's very easy to score your own 50mm and easy to defend it. So you'll end up with a scrap over these 2 40mm and end up with sort of armies sort of playing across here and across here, because there wasn't really much to fight over. You're not fighting over these flags. So you end up with sort of diagonal armies fighting off each other, both scoring their 50s and just fighting over this middle area. Now that these flags are live, suddenly there's a bit to fight over across all the table. That's a really great change. That wraps up all of the scenarios. Interestingly, we have 7 scenarios now. So guys, get your D8s to select your scenario. I'm really excited to play this pack. I can't see a bad one. I'm interested to see how fault line scoring works. It appears on the face of it, you can score a rather lot on turn 2, and then can you jam your opponent out and limit how much they score? We'll have to wait and see. I'm really excited to play Steamroller 2026. I would love to hear your thoughts if you made it this far and heard me bamble through trying to understand these scenarios. Let me know what you think about the scenario packet below. Until next one, guys, I'll see you then.